Welcome to Martial Mindset, where we delve into some of the leading minds in business, martial arts, and academia to find out what truly makes success in any field of life. We are the fight coaches who will motivate and inspire you to level up your game, no matter how big or scary your goals may be.
Bogdan, did you want to start with questions, kick it off?
I want to know how it was when you first met Master Ken.
Man, okay, so Master Ken is the first time I met him. He was Master Ken. So he's a method actor. So when he's there, like you're meeting Master Ken.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, I met him and I was trying to be cool and funny with him, but he was very like you see the character. He was on character, and I was like, does this guy like me? I fucking flew all the way here to make videos with him. And I was like, yeah. At one point, I'm like, I thought he didn't like me or whatever, and then we did the videos and everything, and he's a genius. He's very brilliant. He writes his scripts, he produces them, he acts in them. And then I remember we did the whole skit and whatever, and then he goes in the bathroom, he takes off the mustache, he comes back out, and then I meet Matt.
It's not real then. So it's not real.
It used to be real at one point, that was it. And then when he came out,
Trump's here. Master Ken's mustache is like Donald Trump's hair.
And it's funny, then when he came out, he was a complete different guy, and I was like, oh shit, and we started talking and chilling, and I was like, okay. And then he's like, oh yeah, I'm a method actor. And he's really into characters. So, but he's an awesome guy. I had so much fun, and he's very creative, and he's awesome at what he does. So
does he actually? Out of curiosity, does he have any martial arts training?
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he trains in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu mostly. He was actually talking about it. It's funny because he talks about strikes mostly when he's the Master Ken, but Matt actually says he's really clumsy when it comes to striking, but he's more into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He feels more at home with it, right?
Well, I didn't get to train with him other than the skits that we did, but I can tell he's physically fit, he's strong, and I could tell he has a really solid base of martial arts, which actually makes it even better when he does his skits, I think. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, he's brilliant. He is brilliant. He reminds me a bit of Master Wong, though. But Michael Wong's the same off camera than he is on camera. He's just like an electric bullet. He's just constantly going. The guy's just full of energy. So yeah. So it just sort of struck a chord when you were saying that. Master Ken's like that. We're doing something wrong, Nick. I think that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, actually, on a more serious note, I was more into. I wanted to ask you, Nick, how did you if you could tell us a bit more about your martial arts background and what inspired you to start doing YouTube videos, and how do you come up with your content, and how did you decide to also talk about the motivational stuff and the personal development?
It's so interesting because when I started the channel, I think it was 8 years ago or whatever, I really knew nothing about YouTube. I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to film myself and put it up. I didn't know anything about tags, keywords, nothing. I just made videos and I put them up. And as I was putting them up, I was seeing more and more interest. People were asking me questions oh, this is pretty cool. And then I started taking it more serious. And as I went, I'm like, wow. And then I started making money. So I'm like, fuck, I can make money off this shit too.
That helps, doesn't it?
But it's never been my motivation, and it's still not why I do them, because they've demonetized half my videos. They're shadow banning me. YouTube is just fucking me left, right, and center. And it's sometimes
I've noticed actually your views have dropped quite a bit, actually.
Oh yeah, I they're basically shadow banning me, and they don't suggest me. I've had people being unsubscribed. I've had people tell me I'm subscribed. I have notification. I don't get your videos. I have no clue what's happening. I've tried calling them. They don't really fucking care. You know what?
Does this happen to you as well, Mark?
Yeah, I've noticed a drop in my views, and actually I'm also noticing a lot of my videos being put under age restriction, which basically cuts the views straight away, basically. And it's all the ones where we're using real analysis. So we'll talk about a fight similar to what you've been doing, or I will be teaching and I'll have the B-roll of a real fight and explain really what you should be doing. Straight away, it's gone to 18. And, you know, it drops off. People just can't see it. Unless you go to my channel and you look through the playlists, you won't find those videos anymore. So it's a shame. I had one that was about reading cues for sucker punches, and we were using real fights and explaining how it actually occurs and what you should be looking at. And again, 18 went on an 18, and that's it, dropped off. You know, so yeah, it's happening a lot.
Well, it's because right now they want to the restrictions, the bans, all that shit. And if you put fight, knife, street fight, I mean, even like on my show, Have the Balls to Talk About It, like the men's talk show.
Yeah.
The balls, I can't use it.
It's
they're you know, I did one on like premature ejaculation, you know what I mean? We did one of that and I couldn't even use that. They banned it. It's like, fuck, it's like you can't. And then you have idiots doing pranks and stupid shit, and they're getting views because unfortunately people like seeing stupid stuff, you know? So
yeah, they do. I mean, YouTube's going to go with it's a funny platform. It's really changing now. I think they're trying to go mainstream, aren't they? And it's hitting televisions. When you buy televisions now, you've got a YouTube app on it. So I think they're just trying to clean up and maybe push some of the old content providers out. But, you know, all we can do is keep going and doing what we're doing, I suppose, and be good at it, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, people ask me, it's stay the course. Thank God we didn't start this for money, because if we did, we would have quit. We started because we want to help people and we love what we do. So when you have that as a motivation, you keep moving forward no matter what. So yeah, I used to make a really good salary. Now I make enough that it's not even worth it for me to do it, but I still love doing it and I will continue to do it. Hopefully maybe one day it's going to pick up.
Yeah, well,
and if not, at least I know I'm helping people, you know, so.
And you get to hang out with cool dudes like us.
Damn right. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. 3 different countries all at the same time. It's even better. So, I mean, I'm really big on, you know, psychology and motivation. And when it comes to talking about training for fights and, you know, the whole sort of thing, what's your, I mean, if you had a young guy and you wanted to prep him for the real world in terms of confrontation and dealing with it, what would be your advice for him to get him thinking?
Wow. Well, it really depends on where he's at that moment. Is his mindset broken, or is his physical broken? Like, where is he at? Because I've trained hundreds of guys who had a good mindset, but they thought like, yeah, you know, I know how to fight. I could just, you know, I don't need to train. I don't need to do all this. I could just kick ass because they, you know, got into the fight once. And then you met people who had the physical strength, the ability, the will, but not the mindset. So it really depends on who I'm training first. And then I'm going to look at what am I going to tap in? Am I going to tap in his mindset to get to his body, or his body to get to his mindset?
That's a good one, actually.
That's a great question.
Yeah, that
is a good. To build a confidence that the person's going to need. And again, you know, once you build the proper mindset, then you're able to, you know, that's the engine, you know what I mean? Then everything else could deliver. But if the engine's not there and you just freeze and panic, even if you do, because it's happened to me, and you shake it off in a second because you know you're going to get punched in the face or the guy's going to pull out a knife, then you got to like shake it off and be like, fuck, like boom. Like if it happens, you catch yourself, you shake it off and you fight, because that's, you know, it happens too fast for you to have a 2 to 3 second delay of going, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah. I mean, don't you think though that, I mean, I get this experience where people come to us and they've got the film effect, you know, they watch so many movies and they think, oh, I'm going to train and I'm never going to get hit. And they don't really understand real violence.
No.
And, you know, the effect of real violence, you know, the angry guy who's going to be standing in front of your face, screaming and shouting, and then basically goes for you. And they, you know, they've got this sort of preconceived idea that it's going to be really nice and no one's ever going to hit them in a real fight. You know, if they hit them. And this is the thing, you know, you get hit.
I was teaching, when I was teaching, I was working in the clubs. And I remember I taught the sucker punch like 100 times. I always say this story. I'm outside the club. There are about 6, 7 guys. We kick them out. Bam, bam. They're rough. They're about to fight. One guy sucker punched me. I didn't see shit. Now I taught that sucker punch 100 times. You got to get sucker punched. Why? Because that's the real fucking world.
Yeah.
Shit happens. As much as you train, I go, anybody could knock out anybody in any day. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the things I always try to get across is exactly that, you know, bad guys are really predators, and what they do is they pick on you when you're vulnerable and weak. And at the end of the day, nobody's going to come at you when you're, you know, fit, ready to fight, and you've got that mindset. So they, you know, you're looking away, you're looking down, you're weak, you're having a bad day. That's the time someone's going to, you know, they're going to jump you. And that's exactly it, isn't it? That what people don't realize. Sorry, Bogdan, I jumped in, didn't I? You were going to say something.
That's fine. I just wanted to ask Nick, you know, when did he start getting a better sense of controlling your emotions in a situation, in a violent situation? Because many people, including myself in the beginning, I used to freeze when it would come to, you know, just having to defend myself. What is, like, if you can share a few insights on how you can manage your emotions in that situation, and what was the turning point for you when you could make it easily, you can switch your emotion easily?
Great. Like, I mean, I always teach through experience. And I remember when I started working as a doorman in one of the clubs, the first one, and there was a fight, like a big fight. We're not talking about, like, you know, kicking out a teenage kid there. It was a little bit drunk or whatever. It was like a, you know, 7, 8 or 10. I can't remember it. We were like about 3. It was a real fucking brawl. And I was panicking. I was screaming. I was wailing. I was shouting because I was fucking afraid, with no control whatsoever, because it was a lot more overwhelming that I just didn't, like, I'd never lived something that intense. And the more I experienced an adrenaline dump, the more I experienced, you know, the fear or everything that you would get prior to fight, the more comfortable I got. I learned how to talk to myself. I learned to stay focused in the moment, how to breathe. Like, it's not the time to question, am I good? Can I fight? Am I shit? Am I going to get my ass kicked? The instant you get in your head, you're fucked. You can't. And as well as a lot of training, a lot of full out scenario training. I don't mean sparring one-on-one. I mean, you got to make your training as chaotic and as real as possible, that, you know, we would be like 4 or 5 doormen. We'd get together and do scenarios. And those scenarios were harder than any fucking fight I fought in the street, because these guys were like, we were all training because we knew, well, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we worked, and something might happen this week. I always went to the mindset, this week I might get stabbed. So I trained that mindset.
Tell us a bit about your training methods in that sense.
Well, you know, I've covered so much shit throughout my years, right? Like, I mean, I was in Athens, Greece, and I was doing some Krav Maga with Vasilis Petridis from Krav Maga Science, and I was, like, you know, playing with that. He was teaching me some gun stuff, some knife stuff, and like, throughout my training, like now, example, I do a lot of. First, I tell people you need to have the physical strength. It's only to your benefit to have the explosive power, the footwork, coordination. You need that. Again, that's the other part of your engine. You might believe you can do it, you know, but if you don't, if the wiring and the mechanics are not there, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
As well as then you need full out, like, real type of training, scenario based training, and none of this slow motion, repetitive movement. You know, where you're like, you know, like, the drills have to be full out, even if they're in slow motion. They have to be full out without any sequence to it. That's my take on it. So now that's again, I physically train to be strong, fit, explosive. And then I do as well all, like, my, you know, I still spar. I still, like, you know, I don't enjoy getting hit in the head as much anymore. So I'm kind of like,
I don't believe it.
Who does? You know, but the thing is, you've got to be fit. I mean, fitness is key to self-defense, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if you're not fit, you can't run away anyway. So, you know, you've got to be fit. But the first thing that goes when you're full of adrenaline and you're in that fight and flight mode is you get an immense drop, a sap in your energy. And that's where fitness comes into it. And also it gives you that ability to take, well, I say take punches, but you can take more punches when you're fitter. You're a bit more resilient to that when you're not fit. You know, I had an interesting experience, actually. Maybe you guys will identify with this. I had a young kid come in and do my class the other day, and he's only 15, and he didn't even make the warm-up. I mean, the generation of people's is changing. So at 15 years old, when I was 15, I could run for days and probably hit pads for days and do whatever. But, you know, he couldn't even do the literally. We just did a little bit of agility work, a bit fast feet, and a few body weight exercises. We hadn't even got to get him onto the focus pads and start hitting the pads and moving around, and he was just out of the class. You know, he's out of the class. So, you know, for all of those listening to this podcast, you know, fitness is key, and I'm gonna second that what Nick said. You know, you really have to. It is your mental, but your body and your mind works together. And if your body's not fit, your mind's not fit either. It's just not going to work.
And in terms of fitness too, like people who are listening, like I mean, we're not talking about like mirror muscle. We're talking about functional muscle.
Yeah.
Where like I mean, I compare it to being a Porsche. You know what I mean? Try to, you know when you play video games and you see power, speed, endurance. Your goal, I tell people, is to get all the bars as close to maximum.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. Tell us a bit more about motivation. How do you, you know, what inspired you to start doing these motivational videos?
You know what, man? I started like for fun to like just share a little bit about my life, and I freaked out how much people enjoyed these videos, right? And they're really just about my life. Like, I mean, when people meet me and they freak out, like, I mean, I've never finished high school. I was diagnosed with ADHD, dyslexia. I didn't grow up in a rich neighborhood. I didn't have it easy. I had parents that, you know, I'd like to say today did their best with what they knew. So you know, at 13, I was already working. At 16, I was already working a full-time job, and I was out of school and working at McDonald's. So it hasn't been an easy road to get to where I am. And most importantly, I don't mean success in terms of money. I mean in terms of happiness. It's only at 40 years old now that I'm finally happy and fulfilled with my life, and I like who I've become. So that, for me, is the overall goal. So I'm enjoying this like I'm going to Greece September to teach a seminar, and I'm like, fuck, I'm going to Greece, I'm getting paid to do what I love to do. Like, fuck, how lucky am I to do this? You know what I mean? And to be able to give forward to so many people through my experience and what I'm doing. So I look at it, I'm fucking blessed. You know what I mean? I have every reason to be grateful. So I share that with people and hope to inspire people to like really, you know, for the people out there who are not happy, to take control of their life and create their dream life.
So how would you, I mean, what would be your first steps? Because I really like the fact that you said you're happy where you are. And I mean, that really resonates with me. How would you get someone to start on that journey of how should I put it? Self-fulfillment, I'd say, basically. I mean,
I tell people the first thing you need to do is you got to own that you are where you are and you're fully responsible of everything that's happened to your life. You've attracted it, and you're not like you are at the moment where you are because of the choices you've made. You have to own all of it. It's nobody's fault. It's not your mother's. It's not society. It's not your dad. It's the choices you made, and you are who you are. Second, I tell people, you got to be real and authentic to yourself. Is what do you want from your life? Like, who do you want to become? How do you see the ideal and most like greatest life for yourself? How do you visualize it? What would it look like? Write it on a board. And that's what I did. I only opened my business like 7-8 years ago. I was washing toilets at a hospital I worked, making 30 grand a year. And I had a dream, I had a vision. I built it, and now I'm actually living everything that I wanted. Everything actually surpassed my expectations. So now I've set up the bar so high that I have my plan. I'm 41, 42. I've made my plan for 45, all the way till 50. I know exactly what I want, where I want to go, and what I want to be, what I want to do. I've detailed it. I've written it down. I've visualized it. And I'm grateful. That's very important, to be grateful of where you are. Even if you're in the shits at this moment, say, you know what? I'm in the shits. It's part of the journey. It's part of my experience. Learn from it, get up, and keep moving forward.
I feel like I'm at a Tony Robbins event.
But
And I'm loving it.
it's all experience, man. I mean, I look at these guys sometimes, like all these gurus, they're just sharing books they've read and shit they've heard. Like, I mean, this is my fucking life. Like, I mean, I'm not one of these big readers.
And don't get me wrong, like Tony Robbins has had a huge impact on my life, and I'm really enjoying the level of transparency that you have, you know, with your life and with your experiences, you know.
But you know what? People feel that. And the truth is, I tell people, like my friend George, who's a life coach and everything, and he told me, he goes, I have something you don't have. He goes, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to work with the top gurus. I've done all this stuff, but I don't have the experience. You talk from a real place. That's a huge difference. It's one thing to read about it, to study about it, to talk about it. It's another thing to fucking actually live it and go through it.
And
so I tell people, throw the book in the garbage, go in the world and fuck shit up. Doesn't matter. Just learn from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are great words. I'm actually just sitting here enjoying listening to it. I've got to be honest with you. That's wise words, that is. I mean, most people, a lot of people just don't learn from their mistakes, and you know, they don't learn the lessons from things that can happen. And it takes, I don't know, it does take a little bit of open-mindedness to be able to learn to see that. So you know,
yeah, and it's not easy, especially in the beginning, to, you know, take responsibility, just like Nick said, because you feel it's a lot more comfortable to say, yeah, but you haven't met my fucking boss.
Yeah,
you know, it's easy for you to say, but you don't know what my wife did to me. But you know, who chose the wife, right?
Can I answer that? I tell people, all right. I tell people, okay. They tell me, well, you don't understand. My parents were not that great. I guess what? Mine either. I didn't grow up in a rich neighborhood. Guess what? I didn't grow up rich. I grew up, I'll say, probably in a middle to lower class neighborhood. Yeah, but I never finished school. I didn't either. Well, I got divorced and I lost everything. Guess what? Me too. So whatever shit you throw at me, I'm like, it's all but an excuse. Suffering is nothing but a choice that you make. Yes, you got fucked, you got hit, I get up. But what you do with it after is a choice to suffer. And I tell people, I'd rather get punched in the face than be emotionally or psychologically abused.
Yeah. To me, it's super funny that we're actually discussing this exact topic, because this has been the theme for my life for the past 1 month and a half. I'm working more on actually living that level of gratitude and happiness, just because you can choose it and just because it's an option for you. And it's very interesting how, what's the word? Synchronistic? Is that the word?
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
You know, the synchronicity of us talking about this thing, it actually makes you, you know, puts a huge smile on my face for everybody who's listening in. So yeah, that's.
I want to say something. It's very important. I had an experience with a friend recently, and some people don't allow them to be happy. They don't accept to take in the happiness and the gratitude. They feel they don't deserve it, or they're not good enough. Mm-hmm. So they'll sabotage their friendships, their relationships, they'll project whatever they can, you know what I mean? So some people, it's hard for some people to say, I couldn't get used to being happy. I was like, I'm happy. Everything is good. Wow. Okay, something's going to happen. And then nothing happens. Then nothing happens again.
Yeah.
And then you start living in that state and you're like, wow, let me tell you, a lot of good things happen when you're happy, good.
Exactly.
In a shitty mood.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? That's
absolutely.
I mean, if you have that mindset, then eventually, you know, things are going to go bad because you're looking for it to go bad. I mean, that's that self-fulfilling prophecy that a lot of people put themselves into that loop. So you've got to, I suppose, break that cycle, really, which is what you're saying.
100%. Yeah. And it's not really easy in the beginning, guys, especially if you had it rough and you feel like, exactly like Nick was saying, that you don't deserve it. It's very, very difficult to break that pattern. But once you do, and once you understand that just because you're alive, you deserve to be happy, and you can always choose it in absolutely any moment, it becomes a lot more easy. It becomes a lot more manageable. My coach, Zachary, maybe we'll have him one time on the podcast. He's like, he coaches entrepreneurs for peak performance, and he's managing his state like from moment to moment to moment. He's choosing happiness. He's choosing to feel good about his business and about himself. And he's like, I think I'd like some more clients. And people just like write him messages like, Zach, can I work with you? And boom, it's amazing.
Well, you know what? I believe in the universe and the laws of attraction so much. I believe we're all interconnected.
Yes.
That we're all playing on the same spider web. And we're here today, but maybe in 6 months we'll be on a stage talking. Who knows?
Yeah.
Shit doesn't just happen. I tell people, some people go through their life kind of wondering that things are just going to happen. I'm like, no, you have to create your opportunity. You have to create and design your life the way you want it. Because if you do, then you can, it's all, I tell people, whatever you're going to think, whatever you're going to say, you're going to create. It's only normal. Yeah. So, but you have to start being aware and conscious of everything that's going on around you for you to have that.
I love that. I didn't expect this conversation to take this turn. From punching people in bars to.
Well, we could go back to that. So like the viewers.
I like this one.
No, we the point is that what we do in martial arts, we try to get it across that it's much more holistic than just simply learning how to fight. It's not about just teaching people to kick and punch. It's about teaching people how to think. And the one thing about martial arts is there's a lot of adversity in martial arts, and you've got to learn how to overcome that adversity, and it does reflect real life. And when you've got young people, not just adults as well, but children as well, you're teaching them a lesson for life, because not everything's going to go right in the world and in the real world, that is. And one thing about martial art training and learning how to fight is that you're learning how to deal with odds that that sometimes are just stacked against you. And I think this is all part of the podcast, and I think it's relevant really that we talk about these issues.
Well, I always compare fighting in the ring with anything, meaning you're in the ring and you're fighting and you get punched, and I'm like, okay, how many punches can you take before you fall? And when you fall, do you get up? Same thing in life. You're opening a business. Like, how much can you how much resilience do you have to keep pushing forward?
Yeah.
How consistent are you in your training? Same thing when you're opening a business or starting something, because consistency is the key. Repetition and resilience to achieve something. No different than you going to the gym every day and being consistent and training hard and fighting hard and learning and empowering yourself and changing your mindset and your behavior. It's all interconnected. I tell people, self-defense is what changed my life. Through self-defense, it gave me confidence. It built my strength, my ability to walk in a room, go in front of 50 people and do a seminar and not flinch and feel confident, walk into a bar or go somewhere, meet a girl, and have that presence where, you feel strong and not scared or not insecure, or, where you transcend that through everything, because it's all the same wiring.
Nick, how did you start your martial arts journey?
I started with Kung Fu when I was about 9-10 years old. Where I grew up, we always scrapped. Like, people would always fight as kids. And it's not like back in the day, like, my parents didn't give a fuck. It wasn't like, oh, poor you. No, it's like, why? Leave me alone. Like, fuck off. Go do your shit. So when we would fight, it would be like, it's figure shit out. Yeah, bullying existed back then, but we didn't be like, oh my God, how are your feelings? Are you okay? No. What happened? I got punched. Fuck, did you punch him back? No, I fucking got hit. I took a couple of beatings. I'm like, okay, I got to learn how to fight. I tell everybody's going to get a beating at some time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's part of the game.
I remember once, actually, you talk about that. I remember once I got beaten up, and my mum was standing at the front door actually talking to a neighbour, and I got into a fight with one of the other neighbours' kids. I was only a little kid, and I got beaten up, you know. And then I got up and I walked over, and I was quite embarrassed twofold because my mum's standing there having a conversation while I'm just getting beaten up. And I walked up to her and she looked at me. She paused the conversation and she said to me, "See, I told you not to play with those boys," and then carried on with the conversation. You know? I was getting beaten up so badly that the kid's dad came out of the house and pulled him off of me, right? And took him indoors. That's how bad it was going, not my way. And then my own mother's just like, you know what, I'm having much more of an interesting conversation with my neighbour. So I know exactly what you mean about learning the hard way. I mean,
in today's society, it'd be like, oh my God, your kid's beating my kid, and you're gonna cause him psychological damage, and he's never gonna be the same. And like, fuck. And my son's 10 years old. You know what I mean? He came one day with a little black eye. I'm like, no, what happened? Did you get into a fight? He goes, no. I'm like, are you sure? He goes, no. If I did, am I in trouble? I'm like, no, you're not in trouble unless you started the fight. But if you didn't, I want to know what happened. He didn't tell me finally. I didn't push it. I just left it at that. But I have something told me, you know, it's okay. It's like, let him scrap it out a couple of times. Doesn't matter. You know, it's you know, it's to a certain extent, it's part of the development as well. And we don't promote violence at all. Like, I mean, if my son was a bully, he's going to get it, because I know I was bullied a lot. But, you know, at some point, we also have to teach them how to stand up to them. Because I tell people, your wife could be a bully, your husband could be a bully, your boss could be a bully, the guy at the bus stop could be a bully. Yeah. And there's no age, race, gender to this shit. And people need to start, like, realizing that. We're never going to eliminate this bully problem. Like, all we can do is, you know, build strong kids with character who know how to stand up and brush it off. And if they have to defend themselves. That's it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree. I think, you know, you've got to, you do have to teach children to stand up for themselves. And you know, the first thing is confidence, isn't it? You know, they've got to have the confidence in themselves, because it comes back to what you were saying earlier about, you know, what we were talking about, martial arts and what it gives you, because at the end of the day, self-talk is important. And if you have that sort of negative self-talk, as we were talking about earlier, you've got two rods on your back. You've got you and the other person as well. So confidence is the mainstay, and I really, you know, to deal with. And you're right, absolutely, Nick. You know, we're never going to get rid of bullying. We're social animals as human beings.
Yeah.
You know, we live in. Unless you live in a vacuum with no human beings around you, it's going to happen. Whether, as you said, work, whether at home, whether in your friendship groups, it's, you know, it's essential, really. You know. So,
yeah,
I mean, generally, do you do anything with anti-bullying programs, or do you get involved in that type of area, or is it just something you do in are most of your clients, are they adults, or what, you know, how do you work with that?
I train about 4 or 5 kids, and the first thing I do is I meet the parents, because then you get a good idea who you're going to be dealing with in most cases.
Yeah.
So if I don't like the parents, or if the parents I find like, first I want to know I can work with the parents, and then I meet the kid. I tell them I'm going to do 1 session with them. I just want to feel them out and see how I could connect with the kid if I think he's ready. And then I look at the parents. I'm like, okay, what are your rules of engagement? What do I teach your kid? Some parents tell me, I don't want my kid to hit back. Okay, so you want more just defense? Some parents say, I don't really give a shit if somebody touches them. I want them to defend themselves. So I, like, for my son, I'm like, Noah, you know, if anybody, you know, bullies you, you know, you talk to them, you try to diffuse it. The instant somebody touches you, you crack them in the face. That's it. The instant they grab you, if they're hitting you, you better fight.
Yeah.
You better fight. I tell people, if somebody's bullying you and fighting you, you're taking a beating. You might as well fight.
You've got nothing to lose.
You have nothing to lose. And if you lose, at least you could go home and say, you know what, I took a beating, but fuck, I fought. Even if I took a beating, I gave it everything I have. That's the mindset. Like win or lose. Same thing people tell me against a knife. You're an idiot. There's nothing you can do. I tell people, okay, so next time somebody pulls out a knife, roll down on the floor and tell them there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, exactly.
Stab me
Right?
first.
Or
Here.
you fight with everything you have. Win or lose, you fight. And like if I'm getting stabbed, I'm either gonna get stabbed 3 times or 15 times. The difference is how fast am I gonna react? Am I gonna fight and give it everything I have?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I tell people, you have nothing to lose.
No, you're right. I mean, someone said once to me, "Oh, I don't want to hurt someone," and I said, "Okay, then just give them your wallet, mobile phone, and your keys to your house."
Yeah, good point. Absolutely.
You know, you don't want to hurt someone, and that's absolutely fine. But the point is, you know, sometimes you don't get the choice, and that's really what I was trying to explain to them, that you don't do that. I mean, I think some people are innately born with that experience of learning how to protect themselves. I'll tell you a story. Once when I was a young lad, I got into a little bit of trouble, and I ended up having this organised fight with this lad. I think I was about 14, and this other lad had just come out of Borstal, which is like prison for kids in the UK. And the long story short is we had a little bit of a disagreement, and we agreed to have a fight in the park. So I turned up at the park to meet this lad to have a fight with him, who happens to be, you know, not only 5 years older than me, but also, you know, 6'3", and, you know, he's big, and he's just come out of Borstal, which I said, which is kids' prison. And I'm thinking, okay, and all my friends are like, yeah, well, don't worry. If it kicks off, we're going to back you up. It's all going to be there. So I turned around. Where were they? They'd all run off. Anyway, the long and the short story is I got beaten up, you know, and I knew actually that I was going to get beaten up. And, you know, the one thing that I took away from that is that I didn't back down. I didn't go with, and I could have done that, and I wouldn't have probably lost so much face, because everybody knew it was insurmountable odds anyway. The lad was a lot bigger than me. He had a bad reputation. And at the end of the day, everybody who said they were going to stand up for me didn't. So if I turned around and said, no, I don't want to do this anymore, I probably would have got away with it. But I went into it and I actually got beaten up, not too badly. But actually, you know, I had a lot more self-respect for myself, because,
Absolutely.
you know, I thought, well, look, you know what, if someone's going to pick on me, and the guy was looking for trouble. I mean, he actually started the whole situation. I know it sounds quite childish saying that, but it was actually instigated not on my side. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that I had the self-respect of knowing that, you know, even if it's a difficult situation, I'm not going to walk away. Yeah. And, you know, that's something I've sort of kept with me as I've gone through to adulthood.
It takes a lot of guts to do that.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, it's pretty dumb, actually. But,
you know what? I tell people, like, I mean, I've had concussions, and I've been, like, I mean, I've seen fights, like, working in the clubs where people got stabbed and shit. And I tell people, it's fucking scary. Like, you're like, are you afraid? I'm fucking right, I'm afraid. What do you think, I'm Superman? No. It's fucking scary when you're in the fucking club and there's a brawl and people are throwing shit and you don't even know where it's coming from, who's throwing what.
Yeah.
It's like, and believe it or not, at that very moment, it's every man for himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what people don't realize. Like, I mean, when shit hits the fan, you're lucky if somebody jumps in, but very high chances that you're kind of on your own.
Oh, you're
so
on your own.
Like, fuck it, I'm on my own. I don't count on anybody. I got to protect and save my ass, and that's it.
It just reminds me, I remember once I got jumped in a nightclub, and there was about 3 guys, basically. Long and short of it was there was 3 guys, and I had one pulling on my I had a tie on. I was dressed quite smartly, so I had a tie on, and this guy's pulling my tie, another one's throwing punches, and another one's coming from somewhere else. And in the midst of all of that, this guy's throwing glasses, right, and bottles, and there's like loads of it, just like all over the place. Anyway, long and short of it, it's after the
Sounds
fight.
like a video game.
It was crazy. It was literally crazy. Anyway, at the end of the fight, this guy comes up to me and he just stands next to me casually, just chatting. He said, "Yeah," he said, "I was really impressed. I really liked your fighting. You look quite good." And then he said, "Yeah, but I couldn't quite get you with those bottles that I was throwing." I was like, a video game.
That's hilarious.
There's some mad people around. But yeah, I mean, it's just like complete chaos. If it was anything chaotic. I mean, I did some work on the door. I worked on the door as well when I was a young lad, but it was never too much. It was always a case of before we got door licensing now in the UK, but in the early days it was always a case of you worked with a team and people that knew you. So I used to do New Year's and Christmas. So I was young. I used to teach martial arts, of course. And at that time of year, I had no money because all my students decided that, it was Christmas and nobody wanted to pay their fees. So basically, I'd always used to get calls from the local, from guys that I knew working on the doors. So they used to say, oh, look, we're short tonight, or it's Christmas or New Year's or whatever, or we've got a party or something coming in. Do you want to come in? And obviously, I was the smallest out of all of them. I don't know if you know this, Nick, but, you stand out quite a lot. You're a target, basically, but especially when you get groups of lads coming in that want to cause a lot of fraction. So I've been in that environment. I know it very, very well. So especially when you got it going off crazy. I mean, we've never had anything massively. I mean, luckily we don't really have sort of firearms going off too much here. So
I worked at a club one time and they pulled out the gun and they shot it in the club in the air.
It was
one of the rap songs that said "shoot him up." I can't remember what. And all this boom, 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 boom. I'm like, what the? You should see people jump, man. Everyone's like, what the fuck? All like in the movies, nobody jumped over a bar and like grabbed the gun and flipped them over and like, no, everybody just fucking.
Yeah, you run. I've seen that. I've been in a club when that's happened. Someone's pulled out a gun and started firing. Everybody just runs. It's crazy. It reminds me, actually, I also worked in close protection. I took the singer up to, I had to take a singer up to a club, and it was two of us. And we went to a place called Moss Side. And Moss Side in the UK is in Manchester, which is called Gunchester. So it's got quite a high gun crime rate. So I'm doing close protection. So I'm not doing nightclub security. I'm looking after the singer. And essentially, he went on stage, came out the stage, and he was on stage, and I was in the back waiting for him to come off. So the club owner comes up to me and he says to me, "Look, I've got a problem on the door." I said, "What do you mean you've got a problem on the door? Where's your staff?" He said, "They've run away." What do you mean, run away? He said,
"That's hilarious."
Right? Listen to it. It's worse, right? So he says to me, "Look, I really need the help. Can you help me?" And I just thought, well, okay, all right, fine. So I left. There was two of us in this team. So I left my colleague with the singer, basically, who was performing, and I went to the front of the house. And I got to the front of the house, and it happens to be a local, I don't know what you want to call him, basically. I mean, this is a podcast that's going out on the internet, so I've been careful with my words, but he was basically one of the local bad boys, basically. So he's standing there, and bearing in mind, all the security have run off, and they've run off because he's turned up. And he's come up with this, right, well, you're going to let me in for nothing, basically, and do you know who I am sort of conversation. You know those conversations that these...
fucking had them.
Right?
And sometimes you don't know if it's bullshit or if there's somebody.
Right.
That's the fucking scary shit.
So I'm sitting there, and the only thing I'm going to tell you that saved my life, Nick, was I had a mag light in my back pocket, right, in my back. So I sat down in front of him, and he squared up to me, and I sat down on the table quite casually with my hand tucked in my back like this, holding the mag light, because I'm thinking, he's going to do something, and then when he does something, I'm just going to basically use the mag light. I've got no choice, basically. So he didn't say much. He argued with me for a bit, and I was quite calm about it. And I said, "Look, I'm really sorry. You can't come in unless you pay." So anyway, he went away, and I went back to the stage. And I said to the club owner, "Yeah, it's cool. Okay, everything's fine." So I went back to the club owner. So I went back to the stage, and we took our VIP and we left, basically. And just after we left, he came back with a handgun, basically. He came back with a handgun, and he robbed the place. He took the owner, took him into the back office, cleared the office out, basically. So, I mean, I reckon I was probably about that close to being shot, but the only reason why he didn't do it is because he probably suspected that. Well, he knew by my posture and what I was doing. So, I mean, it was a hairy situation.
I've been in those. Those shit are scary. It's like you're playing chicken. Who's going to move first?
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like, do I hit? Don't I hit? Do I trap? Don't I trap? And it's like you're a hair away of an explosion.
It's crazy.
And it could go any way. No matter how good you are, you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. That's the reality of it.
That is the reality. And you're one step away from being dead. Because you know what? If I didn't, probably the way I look back at it now in these days, and I think maybe if I didn't posture the way I postured, and I was confident I was going to get that mag light on top of his head before he could do anything. But the point is, I could have got it wrong. You know, he could have just pulled his gun and just shot me there and then, dead. It would have been over and done with. There's nothing I could do. I didn't have a vest on. Just had normal civvy clothes on. So it was just crazy. I was so close to being, and the fact that he waited for us to go, I don't know if that was coincidence or not, but either way, I was pretty close to being a dead man. So, I mean, it's luck sometimes. It is luck.
I witnessed somebody die. I always share the story. The kid got stabbed over a gold chain. They ripped the gold chain off him. He ran. They stabbed him. And when I got out of the club, it was a dead night. It was like 3:30 in the morning. I can't remember. And there's a dead body. Like the kid's dying in front of me. Like in the movies, man. Yeah. And like maybe a couple of minutes later, the cops came. The next day or the day after, I heard he died. But I remember I went to bed that night and I was hearing his voice. I still remember what he looked like, everything. It was fucking traumatizing. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what people don't understand. Like violence is not people like, oh, do you like to fight? No, I hate fighting. No, I don't like violence. I mean, we're teaching people how to defend themselves, not to how to go out and pick fights. And when you've seen enough violence, you actually know the dangers and you're like, okay, I'm going to do whatever I can to walk out of this. Because it's not like fighting in the ring. Put me in the ring, I don't give a fuck. I'll go up against anybody because I know the worst, I might get knocked out. Big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Someone's going to step in and make sure you know, they're not going to stamp on your head.
But in the street, you know, the 15-year-old punk holding a knife could stab you and you don't even fucking see it. And his two of his buddies are going to jump behind you. So it's like, it's completely different, you know, two different animals. You know what I mean? So
what impact did that have on your life, Nick, when you saw that kid in the alley?
Oh, fuck. I remember I went training. I was teaching Tuesday at 7:30. I did knife defense. And as I was teaching, people were kind of like doing knife and they were kind of laughing. It's like, oh, I got you. And they were like, and I fucking lost it on all the students. I'm like, I just saw somebody get fucking stabbed. You're all here doing this knife drill like it's a joke. You're all playing. You think it's funny. Guess what? That could have been you. I know how to defend myself if shit happens. But if you guys don't take this shit serious, if it happens to you, you're fucked. I'm not going to be there. So take this fucking seriously, I told them. Take it like it's a real knife and like it's your life. And suddenly you saw the mood change. And then the fucking training just, these guys were like going full out real. They were like really trying not to get cut. So when you bring that reality, it shocks people. And it gives them like, I mean, I take this shit seriously. Because anything could happen. And when you've seen shit happen, you're like, fuck. You know, it doesn't happen in movies. It could actually happen in real fucking life. So at the end, I tell people, it's your life. I'm not going to be there. I'm giving you the tools. At the end, you have to make the decision with what you have in that moment. Because people tell me, should I hit? Should I run? I don't know.
No, yeah.
Are they 2? Are they 3? Is he holding a knife? Are you alone? Are you with your family? Are you with your wife? Every scenario dictates a different outcome, a different decision that you're going to have to make in that moment. So I can't set in stone anything. If you want an answer, I don't have it for you.
No, that you know what, everybody listening to this, you know, that's such great advice. You know, I think anybody that's teaching, they'll actually give you a hard, fast answer. It's not doing you a service at all.
Yeah.
Because they, you know, we as trainers, as motivators, as mentors, we can't tell you what you're going to do in a life or death situation. You are the only person that knows what you're going to do. You know, we can advise you on strategies and principles and concepts, but we can't say to you, you must do this, you must do that.
You know,
you've got to make that decision.
I never worked as a doorman, and I consider myself lucky to have not, you know, haven't had situations like that crazy where people like were running or people were, you know, firing gunshot. And what I really enjoy and what I really appreciate is that you guys are being so honest and so open about it, you know, because a lot of people, you know, yeah, I worked as a doorman. Yeah, I fucked some people up, you know, it's like, no problem. I just punch everybody and I feel good about it. But what I noticed in my life, like when I changed, when my confidence changed, and then when I got rid of all the anger, because I was doing martial arts for like 8 years, but I was still very, very angry, and I was still fighting on, you know, and causing fights and getting into fights. But once I calmed down and once I started really accepting myself for who I was, you know, with the good and with the bad, these situations just stopped happening. You know, I didn't have people come up to me anymore and come into my face or talk in a weird way to me.
I have a great story. I was teaching years ago, and this kid walked in that I knew from school, like from high school. He goes, "Shit, man, I got into a fight last weekend. I want to learn some self-defense." I'm like, "Shit." He goes, "Yeah, man, I don't get it. Like, I mean, the last 3 weekends, I got into a fight." I'm like, "Okay, well, you need to start realizing that you're attracting this because,
Yes.
Yeah.
like, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, like, other than working in clubs, I've, got into a fight, 2 or 3 times when I was younger, and that's because I was drunk and I was angry. But working as a doorman, like, I mean, if it wasn't for working as a doorman, I wouldn't have gotten to, like, fights. Other than, like I said, when I was stupid and young and had so much to prove.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And it's mostly the sign of insecurity. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
And it's easy when you get drunk to be a tough guy because you think, fuck it, I could take on anybody until you get your ass kicked because you realize your motor skills are fucking down the drain. But yeah, a lot of the time it's your attitude and what you project out to people.
Yeah, what you attract.
Yeah.
There's actually, it's interesting because I'm going to do a video on this at some point in time. There's a phenomenon called hostile attribution bias in psychology. And what that is where some people have a bias to just basically hearing, if you like, or sensing or responding with hostile bias to what you say. So you can say something really nice, like, for example, you could be looking at someone and you might be looking at the person, admiring them. They're dressed nice, they look nice, whatever. It doesn't have to necessarily be, in a sexual way or what have you. You're just looking at them, but they bias it to hostility. Or you might say something that's quite neutral, but they bias it towards hostility. So there is this hostile attribution bias that does actually exist. It's actually been studied and researched, and some people have it. So there's a lot of elements to social interaction that people can attract. I guess what I'm trying to say, they can attract trouble because they're looking for it. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's the point, really, just to sort of add to that.
Guys, I'm sorry, I have a class in like 5 minutes. So
It's been a huge pleasure.
I want to do this again. I'm sorry, guys. I really want to do this again because I think
we could spend
I
think we could spend like a whole day just listening to you guys share stories.
Oh, you know what? I think, like, I mean, Mark, it's a pleasure to meet you because I respect what you do, man. And
Thank you.
there's a lot of the guys in the industry that I look and I'm like, okay, this guy knows his shit. Most of them, it's like, oh God, you're gonna kill somebody. Even if you tried, even if you fucking trained it for 1,000 years, this shit doesn't work. So I think it's amazing what you're doing, guys. I definitely want to do it again because you could say we could go endless talking and sharing some stories.
We will definitely do that. Nick, tell us about, for people who are listening to this from Athens, where can they get in touch with you and get more details on the event that you're going to be doing?
Yeah, well, I'm doing a seminar. I'm doing a level 1 certification. A lot of people ask me, want to be certified. Level 1 certification, September 21st, 22nd in Athens, Greece, at the Krav Maga Science. They could also go visit my website, nickdrossos.com. I'm building a new program on it, a new self-defense and fitness and motivational program called the Hero Program. And they can check out my YouTube channel as well, Nick Drossos. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome. And one question for our audience. If you could ask them one thing, what would that be?
One question. That's a good one. One question for the audience. Wow. Let me try to keep it simple.
First thing that comes to mind.
What motivates them to learn self-defense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's
Simple, basic question. What motivates them? Because there's always a motive. Is it fear? Is it because you want to feel strong? You want to be able to dominate? Is it because you want to learn to defend yourself? It's important to know the motive behind it.
You want to meet your high school bully after 10 years and kick his ass.
Oh, I'll share a story. I met my high school bully. I met this bully. I shared it. The guy had stuck his ass in my face when I was a kid. I was like 10 years old, maybe.
My God.
And this kid was a real badass. He was in prison, for stabbing people, whatever. And I hadn't seen him for like 30 years or whatever it is. And he walks one day and I see him. And he looks at me and I say his street name. I don't want to say it. So I said, I'll call him Baby. I said, yeah, you're Baby, huh? I'll call him Baby M. I go, you're Baby M, huh? He goes, yeah. I go, you don't remember me. And now he's like skinny. He looks like he's on crack. I'm like twice his size. I'm like, I could fucking break you. And I go, you don't remember me, huh? He goes, no. I go, you bullied me, man. It made my life a living fucking hell. And he looked at me, he didn't say nothing. And I remember it was the cafeteria at the hospital where I worked. And then he comes around and he goes, I want to apologize. I'm sorry for bullying you.
That is so cool.
I told him, I want to thank you because you made me stronger. You built my character. And because of you, I got into self-defense. And it was just one of those moments where we just shook hands and that was it, you know? So
you guys cried, I'm sure.
But you know what? It's our experiences that make it. I'm like, you know what? It's good I got bullied. It's good I went through those challenges because it made me stronger, it made me tougher. And you have to be able to say find the greatness or the positive of every negative experience.
Absolutely.
I leave everybody on that note. Mark, Bogdan, guys, it's been a fucking pleasure doing this. I hope we're going to do it again, man. I like the energy between us three.
Yeah, looking forward to it very much as well.
Awesome. Mark, I'm going to hit you up as well. Bogdan, where are you from?
Romania.
Romania, that's what I thought.
You crushed Romania. What do you mean that's what you thought?
No. I know. I saw it. It's just like my brain's a little bit fried because I have a student in the back waiting and I have somebody else coming in. So I'm like, and guys, you know what? Like, hopefully one day maybe we could do something together, some kind of collab, video, training, you know, something like that.
Definitely. All right. We'll talk
All right, guys.
Thank you for your time.
Mark, I'm out. Bogdan.
Peace. Speak to you soon.
Strength and honor.